Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Becky Schilling. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host amazing guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. Today, we're exploring how data clean rooms can drive marketing success and protect consumer privacy. Let me introduce our guests. Lauren Wetzel is the Chief Operating Officer at InfoSum. She's joining us from New York. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Becky. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Adam, for joining us.
And Adam Solomon, Global Head of Business Development and Go-to-Market, AWS Clean Rooms, and AWS Entity Resolution, Amazon Web Services, is joining us from Seattle. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Becky, and great to be with you, Lauren.
Before we get into it to our audience, let's keep it conversational. Just use the chat window on the right to tell us where you're joining us from and to submit your questions. We'll do our best to get to as many of your live questions as we can during the Q&A, so keep them coming. We have great content planned for you today. Lauren, over to you.
Thanks, Becky. So as a quick starter, first, I just want to say it's amazing to be a part of a webinar where data cleanroom isn't a component, but is the main topic. And at InfoSum, we've been in the data cleanroom business since, frankly, before we even labeled it a data cleanroom. So it's been really fascinating and exciting to see larger companies such as Amazon and AWS in particular get into this space. And I'm thrilled that we're doing this webinar together so that you get more perspectives than just one. So AWS has been great partners to InfoSum. I really respect and admire Adam. So I know this is going to be a lot of fun, whether you just left lunch, whether you're on your way to lunch. I appreciate you being tuned in. So let's start with the easiest question here on the screen to get out of the way, which is just answering the what. What is a data clean room? So both Adam and I decided to turn upon some of our industry bodies. So IAB Tech Lab defines a data clean room as a secure collaboration environment, which allows two or more participants to leverage data assets for specific, mutually agreed upon uses while guaranteeing enforcement of strict data access limitations. Now, in my opinion, and what I may use more interchangeably with data clean rooms throughout the webinar is data collaboration infrastructure or data collaboration platform. But even more important than the what you call the technology is that this is about keeping data collaborations more private and secure. And it's also about control. Our clients have often adopted data cleanroom technology because of the notion of not having to hand over control of their data. So for a long while, our industry would often commingle centralized data sets. And with innovative technology such as data cleanroom technology, you can still achieve critical data collaboration without the need to commingle your customer data. But often more important than what it is taking a few steps back as to why data clean rooms and why now. And Adam has such a good perspective when we first talked about it as to what's really driving the why now.
Yeah, at Amazon and AWS, we're very famous for our working backwards process. We're always working backwards from customer needs. And that was the starting point for the AWS Clean Rooms journey. What are the customer challenges out there in the market that are leading to conversations around data clean rooms? And we've really boiled it down to three key themes that we heard from customers. The first is the privacy imperative. There are privacy laws and regulations being promulgated around the world, GDPR, individual states in the US, most likely some kind of federal law coming soon. And across other parts of the world, there are also privacy laws there. Those privacy laws have requirements in terms of treatment of data, governance, certain things that companies need to do. And so certain customers are looking to privacy enhancing technologies, including data clean rooms, as a solve, or maybe one of many tools they could use to help with this privacy imperative. The second area is sometimes referred to by folks as signal loss, but I prefer the term signal disconnect. And this is usually associated with the ongoing saga of the deprecation of the third-party cookie. So when it comes to Google and Chrome third-party cookies, it seems like perhaps a few more months before that finally happens completely. But third-party cookies going away, opt-in mobile identifiers, and as a result of that, certain signals that have been available for advertising and marketing use cases have been cut or disconnected. Cookies and mobile IDs were used as a conduit to transmit signals from point A to point B, from a website, from an app, from another point to some kind of measurement platform or some kind of advertising planning and activation platform. And when you cut that connection, it's not that the signal is lost, it's just trapped in a first-party context. So signals are disconnected. And if you have signals living in different environments, perhaps data clean rooms can be used to analyze those signals, even though they live in different places. And then there's a third category of things that we just weren't able to do before, unlocking new opportunities. There are certain types of advertising needs that companies have, for example, planning across linear and digital and social and certain walled gardens, or measuring across those platforms that just weren't possible before because of different technologies or certain commercial implications. And perhaps data clean rooms then can be used as a tool to help traverse those. What do you think, Lauren? Is that what you're hearing in market?
Yeah, we started in Europe. So I would say privacy imperative was one that kind of out the gate with the predominant driver. There were not a lot of options. This was not replacing something. This was now I can finally be able to utilize my data that I have never been able to use thanks to technology that's keeping privacy sort of at the center of it. I think what's interesting now is I think we have a lot of clients and partners who come to us, frankly, with all three. And I would encourage the industry to adopt the Adam Solomon signal disconnect because it is so much better than signal loss. I think signal loss, deprecation, it just makes everything seem like it's doomsday. And to your last point, new opportunities is exactly what this provides. So whether that's a new opportunity to have access to first party data sets and work with partners you've never worked with before, we've seen new products launch in market. We've seen this actually accelerate commerce media and many other important advertising trends. So I completely agree. I would say it's been more about privacy for us, but now we're really seeing someone check the box on, if not just one, but two or all three of these drivers and challenges. But I'd love to hear, Adam, as we kind of move forward, you were starting to get into this, those data clean room use cases that you and I hear so much about, and people sort of raise their hand. I need a data clean room. Why do you need it? What can they do?
Absolutely. It's a natural progression of this working backwards process. So if there are challenges in the market, then what next? What are you trying to accomplish? And this is so key in terms of figuring out the right tool for the right job. What are you trying to accomplish? And with whom are you trying to accomplish it with? So advertising, planning, activation, measurement is something that people talk about all the time, and we'll get into how clean rooms can be applied there. But I actually wanted to start with insights because I feel like insights doesn't get a lot of love when it comes to data collaboration and data clean rooms, but it's so incredibly important. So you hear companies, whether you're a marketer, an agency, ad tech, martech, or publisher, everyone talks about the aspirational, the mythical customer 360. I want to know everything about my customer or my customer's customers, right? But depending upon who you are or what business you're in, you're only seeing a small slice of that. Your own first-party data, if 360 degrees is the aspiration, you may have 10 degrees, 15 degrees. You don't have that. So how do you round that out? Where do you find this other information from? Well, that's going to be your commercial partners. That's going to be companies that have interesting data assets. And there are challenges around how do you perform analysis across those data sets. I don't want to show you my first-party data. You don't want to give me your first-party data or your valuable third-party assets. So data clean rooms can be used to help generate those insights and better understand customers. And then that becomes a jumping off point for planning, activation, measurement. I have customers, you have customers. I want to know what the intersection is. I'm a marketer, you're a media platform. How many of my customers are watching your streaming content? And I want to use that because I want to target those individuals, or I want to negatively target those individuals. I don't want to run a campaign targeting those particular folks. Or I want to use that as a foundation to create lookalike or act-alike audiences. So planning then leads to activation, whether one of the participants in a clean room collaboration is the platform for activation, or the output of a collaboration is going elsewhere. And then finally, measurement, which is the bookend for planning. I ran a campaign, what happened next? And here data clean rooms can be extremely useful because many times the conversion event, the sale, the sign up, the subscription, the walking into a physical location, data related to that event may not be in the direct possession of the company that ran the campaign. So you're a brand, you run a campaign, the conversion event happens in a retail store, online or offline. How do you measure the outcome of that? Data clean rooms can be very helpful. Is this a construct that you're hearing from your customers, Lauren?
It absolutely is. And I would encourage, as you're looking to adopt data clean rooms, like this is a really helpful framework to understand. Maybe to Adam's point, I completely agree. I think insights doesn't get as much hype as it frankly should. I think so much of the new opportunities and art of the possible comes from what you can do with insights. I think what's been really unique and interesting, and I'm most proud of our clients for doing, is to move beyond just use cases and launch new products in market. And so the best example I give, which is a flavor of sort of two trends, CTV advertising and high growth and new streaming platforms that are out there, alongside with the use of retail media data, shopper transaction, loyalty data, and partnerships that sort of come to life where you have an exclusive retail partner, you have a CTV provider, and then you're tailoring a product in market that's great for CPG, that's driving sales, and it kind of just ties all of those together. It's insights as to the right shopper audience, it's activation because there's an actual campaign that's planned against it, and then it's the ultimate form of measurement because you're actually able to bring in that transaction data, understand exposure data, and then link that back to an outcome that you had set at the start of the campaign. So I think as much as this is a starting point, my sort of encouragement to everyone is just think about something that maybe you're not just replacing that doesn't exist in market, but something that's filling a gap in market, something that your clients have been asking you for. And then how do you package that uniquely? How do you position that relative to the competition? How do you make that stand on its own and frankly challenge both Adam and I and our teams and our platforms to sort of find the right capabilities in order to do that? I'll move us along to something that is a bit of my rally cry, which is over the past few years, privacy has frankly moved beyond being perceived as a burden to being seen as a key priority for individuals across the entire C-suite. What I mean by that is you have your CEOs who now perceive privacy and the correlating consumer trust as a key component of reputational risk assessment. They don't want to be a headline. They don't want to get in trouble. The collection, management, protection of that data is incredibly important. CMOs are recognizing that when fully embraced and done well, privacy can be a business advantage. It can be high-performing marketing, and it can build your customer loyalty. And across so many companies, especially as I imagine with the e-marketer audience, brands and media entities who are tuning into this webinar, you all see data as an asset on your balance sheet that needs to be controlled very, very carefully. So through the use of data cleanroom technology, we've actually published some case studies I'm pretty proud of. And I know AWS has some really great case studies as well that basically are proving the point that privacy is not just good for the sake of regulation or good because you have to do it. It's actually good to drive some business outcomes. And so it can be a cost reducer. So we've seen lower cost per action around 15%, lower cost per click around 20%. We've seen it as a growth driver, and that can be very different whether you're on the sell side or the buy side, but we've seen some sales lift across that retail CPG product that I was just talking about that delivered sales lift for CPGs over 120% and an average of 30% increase across all partners. It's important that it's a risk reducer. Gone are the days of taking chances, handing over control of your data, being fast and loose with your data. This is what I always call, when you're thinking about adopting this technology, a no regret decision. No one's gonna, call to blame the fact that you're doing everything you can to adopt innovative technology to better protect your data while still enabling business outcomes. And then something I think gets overlooked or underlooked is that it's an efficiency driver. So these tools, these capabilities, both across AWS and InfoSum, they are allowing you to be in control and to do more things than you were able to do before. So it is no longer about having to rely strictly on platforms where you're kind of waiting days, like the ability to do those insights, that activation, the measurement in seconds, not days, to get results back in hours, not weeks. I think that time is so precious. It's such a precious resource. And I think that often gets overlooked. So efficiency also ends up being a great outcome. So you're not only just making your privacy teams or your legal teams or your compliance teams very happy. I also think you're making the chief executive officer, the CMOs, the revenue officers, you're launching new products. And I don't find that that's talked about enough. Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and certainly from an AWS perspective, and we love the passion that InfoSum has for your product and your unique position in the market, because you're our customer as well. We want to make sure that InfoSum is successful in your mission with your clients and your partners. So anything that we can do with our services to help you in that mission is something we're very much excited about.
Yeah, but it's this data clean room space, this sort of, hype that we're on, hype cycle. It's not just all of the positives. I would also say that it gets a lot of criticism. So Adam and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fun term of interoperability, which he and I could have had our own webinar just on this topic. The notion that interoperability is a blocker for data clean room adoption is something that frankly really gained steam in 2023, as you can see from all of these headlines. And frankly, much of this comes down to just how you define interoperability. Is this from a business outcomes perspective, a technology perspective? And so to kind of tackle this, we're first going to have Adam talk a little bit about interoperability powered by AWS, and then I'll talk about what I'm hearing on the topic of interoperability from the InfoSum clients.
Yeah, so from an AWS perspective, we've taken a pretty unique approach as we think about data collaboration, interoperability, and our services, including AWS Clean Rooms and another service that runs very closely with AWS Clean Rooms, which is AWS Any Resolution. And at AWS and also at Amazon in general, we think about primitives, building blocks, upon which our customers can assemble their applications and their capabilities. And that's the approach that we took when it comes to data collaboration and interoperability. So in this architecture slide, you can see a layer cake representation of how we think about this at AWS. We're mindful of the fact that our customers have data in different repositories, different lakes, different warehouses, different SaaS platforms. And that data becomes the foundation for the collaboration. However, before you can collaborate and interoperate with your partners for various use cases and business purposes, you need to organize your data. If you have data sitting in different repositories and you don't have a unified view of your customer, whether it's an individual, a household, or a business, how could you possibly interoperate and collaborate with others to perform analysis when you've got messy data and they have messy data? So we think about AWS Any Resolution as a key component here, which many customers will use in order to match, link, and enhance their own data to round out, to create that unified view. Then once you have that unified view, you're ready to collaborate. Now, because from an AWS perspective, we took this service primitive or building block approach, we have different types of customers who use this service to build upon. So you could be a marketer or an agency that uses AWS Clean Rooms to interoperate with your partners, but you could also be an ad tech or martech provider. In fact, you could be a clean room company like InfoSum and build upon these building blocks that we've provided, because we want to help make it easier for customers to collaborate and interoperate. So from our perspective, we would be very happy if a customer data platform collaborated directly with a social platform, or InfoSum collaborated with a publisher, And if our products and services were ingredients in there, that would be perfectly fine. We're happy to be behind the scenes powering some of these capabilities. And within the Amazon family, we have a very unique value proposition in that AWS Any Resolution and AWS Clean Rooms can also interoperate with the world of Amazon Ads, which includes Amazon Marketing Cloud from the buy side and Amazon Publisher Cloud from the sell side. So within the world of Amazon, that's a very unique and differentiated capability, but all built upon these building blocks. And what we found when dealing with customers is that depending upon the persona you're interacting with, the business or the technical persona, interoperability will mean different things. The business persona may say, when we talk about that signal disconnect, I used to interoperate, or I used to be able to plan between my platform and someone on the sell side, if I'm on the buy side, or vice versa. And now I can't do that anymore. I need to be able to interoperate. But it could be from a technical persona perspective that they have certain capabilities that they want to enable that AWS Clean Rooms can help them with as well. So depending on the persona, that is definitely a consideration there as well.
Super helpful. And as a plus one, a lot of the same things that we agree with at InfoSum, Adam. I would say one thing maybe that you didn't say, but I know is also true of AWS. It's just like engaging with the IAB, engaging with each other industry bodies, exploring cross data clean room interoperability. Because I think out the gate, when people say interoperability, it's if I adopt this clean room and my partner adopts another clean room, there has to be a way to link across. And while that's an interesting area and there's a lot of work underway, as Adam just described, in order for that to happen, the reality that I've seen in talking to my clients is that for most of the advertising industry, it's not just about cross data clean room. And so, Adam, you touched on this. It's collaboration, regardless of the data and the tech stacks across all parties. And so at InfoSum, we enable collaboration across any tech stack. Similar, your enterprise solution, where your data lives, the choices that you've already made in establishing a way to manage and store your data, that doesn't need to be the same as your partner. And in many cases, it won't be. In any data format is something I think people don't talk enough about. That just really means that, first of all, there's format in terms of the file type, there's taxonomy, which I think is really important. So if you're in the art of collaboration, you need to understand that the way that you document and store birth date, whether that's a date versus somebody who stores it as an age, it's really important that you kind of get that right. And that it really helps to make the use of data clean rooms happen really quickly. So we have a global schema that acts as a Rosetta Stone during that onboarding process to enable collaboration regardless of format or taxonomy. I think that's important flavor of interoperability. I also think with any identifier, and I think I love the way that AWS kind of calls out entity resolution as a much more broad thing than identity. And InfoSum, for context, we don't have an identity spine that's unique to InfoSum. I don't own any data. I don't sell any data. And as a result, many of our clients come to us and they need to partner with an identity bridge or spine. And so we have a capability which we call Identity Bridge. And that really helps to bring in some of those identity partners that work well for our clients and bridge across. So if you're a brand and you have emails and you're a publisher and you have IP, those identity partners can really help to bridge across. And we shouldn't dictate which identity is exclusive to the clean room or exclusive to the collaboration. You need to be able to support all of them. I also would say, it's not on this slide, so forgive me, but it's coming to my mind at this point, but skill sets. Ease of use is critically important. So, and I think this is an area where AWS and InfoSum work really well together. So not just having tools that are built for data scientists, but really having it in a way that you can be a business user and you can uncover insights or plan or measure in a few clicks with ease of use, low code, no code, drag and drop. Or my joke is that if I can do it, anyone can do it as a non-technical person. And then lastly, just any use case, which we covered those use cases. But again, the clean room shouldn't be in isolation for one use case. You should have the breadth of adopting technology that lets you do multiple things. So it's not just activation, but it's activation and measurement and insights and planning. To kind of wrap it up, and shockingly, we're like very doing well on time, I think, Becky, keep me honest. But in the middle of this slide, a term that often, frankly, is confusing and could warrant its own eMarketer webinar if eMarketer's listening and wants tips. This privacy enhancing spectrum, or PETS, because to me, it helps both address interoperability and explain why we can't simply interoperate with every single solution. So why, when a client tells me, why aren't you working with every single vendor that's out there? And a huge part of that is what we talked about before with sort of the raising of our standards around privacy and security. And so accomplishing that requires these higher standards than the tech that came before it. And being lax on those standards simply to have an integration endpoint is really us as an industry going backwards and not forwards. And frankly, being lax on those standards could put our clients in a very risky situation, and they take that very seriously. We take that very seriously. So being open about the right combination of privacy enhancing technologies, helping to educate, again, whether that's IAB Tech Lab, whether that's regulators, and just continuing to educate on the art of the possible and how, when you have a combination of privacy enhancing technologies and you talk and you educate about them, that is sort of underpinning how a lot of interoperability can come to be.
Yeah, and I think, Lauren, that's a very important point. So everyone conceptually wants to be interoperable, but as you dig into the details, it's important for those listening to this webinar to ask of your partners and to ask of us to dig into these questions about aligning your expectations for privacy, security, governance, but also things like performance, scale. There are other cost. There are other considerations here as well. And these are very good questions to ask of your partners to figure out what's most important to you, what do your partners provide, and what is the best tool to fit your needs.
Perfectly said. Becky, I believe we are handing it over to you for the Q&A.
You are. Thank you so much for sharing that great information about data clean rooms, building new opportunities with your data, and why privacy is good for business. And Lauren and Adam, we do have quite a few questions, so let's jump in. The audience would like to know, they said, Adam, you talked about 3 entry points into data clean rooms, with the last one being new opportunities. Could you dive a little bit deeper into this? And is it limited to advertising opportunities, or does this extend beyond delivering targeted advertising?
Yeah, so I'll start off with that insights use case, which crosses over between advertising and marketing because you want to understand your customers better. And when I referenced earlier this notion of collaborating with unique data sets to better understand your customers, historically, there have been very interesting data sets, whether it's financial information or certain kind of very granular retail information that was very challenging to leverage or utilize when it comes to using that to better understand your customers, whether it's the sensitivity of the data set or it's too granular. And so using data cleanroom technologies, it opens up new opportunities to perform analysis across your first-party data and those data sets. And one interesting thing to note about using data cleanrooms, that historically, when we've tried to collaborate from one party to another, and we've had to onboard our data with certain companies or certain data partners, there have been certain rules that have to be enforced in terms of the uniqueness of the output. So if you're onboarding data with a data services provider and you're getting an output back, that information can't be too granular because you want to prevent the re-identification of individuals. So the precision of the signal is watered down to make sure you can't re-identify someone. But when you're using data clean rooms, you can have full fidelity data as part of the collaboration, super granular data. The way you prevent re-identification is by using the technologies layered on top of this, whether it's differential privacy, minimum aggregation constraints, or other types of technologies or capabilities that different companies have. So you use those technologies to prevent re-identification or other types of concerns you have, you don't water down the data itself. I think that's a great example of what these technologies can unlock for us.
Then we have a question about data workflow and the flow of how the data moves through. So the question is, what is the data workflow of clean rooms to activation channels? Won't my data need to leave the clean room to target a DSP, an SSP, social, another channel?
For me, Becky,
Sure.
the quick answer is no. I think it's a no, but, and it just really depends on the workflow, the infrastructure, and to a little bit of what Adam was saying, like what levels of privacy enhancing technology or differential privacy are sort of embedded within it. But I think what's been really unique and interesting about data cleanroom technology is the ability to really utilize the tech to protect and ensure that what's actually matching with your clients is a mathematical sketch. In the case of InfoSum, it's not actually that underlying PII. And so when you talk about what's moving, you're talking about a mathematical model. You're not talking about underlying PII, which I think gets teams much more comfortable with sort of the concept or workflow to what you speak of. And that happens during the onboarding process, PII deletion, the layers of differential privacy. There's privacy controls you can dial up. And I would say what's really important, I guess the question that's really important to ask, whether with whatever use case it may be, is will my partner, when we collaborate, have an ability to re-identify my consumers? And if the answer is yes, I just don't see that as private or secure. But that's sort of a quick answer on sort of the flow or the movement.
Yeah, and also just picking up on that, this is a great example of depending upon who's collaborating with who and what they're trying to achieve, there are different patterns. So there's the pattern that Lauren described that we're very much fond of it at AWS as well, which is the activation platform is one of the collaboration partners. Therefore, they're using the data clean room and they're receiving the output in a secure manner to activate. There are other use cases where, let's say it's a marketer and a data company and you want to activate somewhere else, and that activation platform is not part of the collaboration, in which case there are different patterns there. So you can have secure output. There are industry initiatives, including OPJA and PAIR, which was, I guess, now part of IAB Tech Lab, or perhaps there are other methods in the future where you can take the output of a collaboration and activate elsewhere in a secure manner. And so this is an area where all of us need to work together, really understand what's being asked of us, and say, okay, let's get creative, or let's use the tools we have to figure out how we can activate on behalf of our customers in a way that's secure and consistent with their expectations.
Great. Another audience member is asking, are data clean rooms appropriate to govern and share data with different levels of access required across different brands or business units within the same overarching company? Or would another approach be better in this case? Lauren, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I think your data clean room should have very granular permissions and controls, and that is for a handful of things. That could be, again, when you're talking about data clean room, you're not talking about access to the PII, you're talking about the ability to run those collaborations. And so you should never have anyone have hands-on access to PII data. That's not what a data clean room is enabling. But the granular permissions and controls is important because I used to work in a telecommunications company where certain divisions couldn't have access to certain data types. So even though it's at that aggregated, anonymized level, and it's that sketch that I was talking about that's representative, perfectly representative of that data set, you still only need to abide by who has access to what. And so you need to be able to do it across divisions. We've seen it across just levels within a company. And then very importantly, across entities. And that could be for a few reasons as well. It could be because you want your publisher partner to sort of drive the collaboration. And maybe that's for a variety of reasons. Maybe that's just how that publisher has set something up. And therefore they have more of the controls to sort of lead the way on activation, to lead the way on measurement, or any other use case. It could become because of resources. So we often hear like, I don't have enough resources. I must not be able to work with a data clean room. And I often say, it takes two to tango in a collaboration, and you can typically rely on those partners in a variety of ways, just like you can also rely on agencies. And so we've also seen more recently sort of the use of agencies who want their clients to be able to control their data and enable that control of their data, but they can be a really helpful resource to sort of get some of these use cases off the ground and to support those first party data campaigns.
Yeah, and one thing just to add to that, one of the features that we layered on with AWS Clean Rooms is the separation of who runs the queries from who could receive the results. So this is a use case both within the enterprise, but also and across companies. But you can see an example where multiple divisions within the same company, perhaps one of the divisions that's responsible for a certain data set, they may want to control what kind of queries can be run, but have the results sent to another division, another participant. So you have all manner of controls here, the types of data, what kinds of analysis can be performed, who is running that analysis, and who's receiving the output of that analysis as well. And also, very important, who gets the bill. That is a very important consideration as well, even within large enterprises with different cost centers, who is actually paying for that capability, a very practical and pragmatic matter that is real to our customers.
Excellent point, and something you want to figure out before you get to the end, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We had a couple of questions around measurement. So, Adam, I'm going to direct this one to you. Measurement's such a big topic right now. Current solutions heavily reliant on third-party identifiers. How are companies using data clean rooms for measurement, and where do they fit within measurement strategies in the post-cookie world?
Yeah, so unsurprisingly, measurement itself has many sub-use cases. Sometimes we say measurement, and there's, for example, media measurement, ad exposure. So there are many companies in the media and ad measurement business in terms of the size of an audience that was reached across certain platforms and the attributes of those folks. That's measurement. And that's an area that's been under a lot of pressure and challenge with the deprecation of third-party cookies, mobile identifiers, but probably just as important, the different types of platforms that consumers are consuming content across, your phone, your tablet, your large TV, other types of devices. So using data cleanroom technologies, that is a very effective way to take impression data that lives across many different platforms and be able to perform analysis across those data sets without having to yank that data from all those different platforms. Keeping in mind, for example, in connected TV, you have perhaps a connected TV or streaming TV app that's sitting on top of a platform like a Fire TV or a Roku or a TV platform. And so you have many different parties involved, so that can be an unlock there. And then there's other types of measurement, which is I ran a campaign and I want to know what happened next. And as I mentioned earlier, that what happened next may happen in many places. If you're a consumer packaged goods company and you're running TV commercials and streaming TV and you want to know uplift in the supermarket and online and other places, how can you possibly do that with data that lives in one location? So you have to work across multiple partners in order to analyze across those data sets. And data clean rooms can be important there. And one last point when it comes to the deprecation of third-party cookies, mobile identifiers, and measurement, depending upon where the content impressions, the ad impressions occur, and also where these conversion events occur, that might be associated with different types of personal information. It could be personally identifiable information, name, address, phone number, email. It could be identifiers that are unique to the platform, like a CTV identifier or a mobile identifier, or there could be something else involved. And so data clean rooms are a very important component there as well, because increasingly customers do not want to share those underlying match keys. But also, if two companies are in a collaboration, their match keys may not match. And so you may need another party, and Lauren was referencing this earlier in terms of working with different identity data companies. You may need someone else to come into the collaboration that can bridge across these data sets. I have an email, you have a phone number, these won't match, but somebody else knows how they match up. And as long as it's all done in a permitted manner, of course, in conformity with all the rules and regulations and consumer consents, that is an opportunity for clean rooms as well across those different data sets.
Great. We have time for one more question. Lauren, I'll direct this one to you. Privacy is obviously a main selling point of data clean rooms. Do all data clean rooms offer the same level of privacy? And where, as a buyer or a user of clean rooms, should I start when comparing solutions?
It's a very quick answer, which is no. I said this earlier, but this data clean room label got slapped across a variety of vendors, as many other segments in advertising and marketing. This just happens frequently. It's like we have to call something a data clean room, and then one of these things is not like the other. And not speaking for Adam or for AWS, where I know they prioritize privacy. But there are just a lot of new companies. There are a lot of new flavors of data clean room, and they don't have the same level of privacy. And nor, depending on what region you're in, may you need that same level of privacy as sort of every individual stack. I think I said this earlier, but what's really important is being able to warrant and guarantee that you can collaborate and your partners can't re-identify an individual. I think that's very important. I think making sure that there's privacy enhancing technologies that are applied as a default while also having the ability to increase. And in terms of advice, or like if you're looking at this and it's confusing across the different vendors, number one, there's helpful guides. I know Amazon has helpful guides. InfoSum has helpful guides. I know the IAB does. And I think it's really important to read the fine print and like digest these new concepts, these new technologies. And maybe even a stronger piece of advice actually is bring your privacy teams along early on in the exploration. Like, I think we're used to adopting technology where it's like, first it's going to be for my use cases, and then I'm going to pass the baton to my legal team. I'm going to pass the baton to a technical team. Like, I think as best as you can, because this move towards data clean room is about not shortchanging privacy. You should bring your privacy teams along the way and have them sort of ask the really tough questions. I know on our side, like, we love the tough questions, like we want the tough questions. And I think that's really important. Yeah, I would also say don't just do this, but sometimes if you're looking at the clients that a company works with and they're in your space and you're a regulated company, sometimes that can give your teams a little level of confidence. Okay, I'm in banking. They're already working with banks in, the US or in the UK. That's a good sign. That those industries are small too. And then you can talk to someone who's utilizing the technology and get a feel for the questions that they asked, how they approached it. And I think if the industry did more of that, then I think we'd have, better adoption, more scale that kind of comes from these innovative technologies if we sort of share a little bit of the notes on that.
Yeah,
Great.
and I think that that same approach applies to other important dimensions for data clean rooms as well. So if you take that approach that Lauren just walked us through, and if scale is important to you, performance, cost, all these other dimensions, definitely apply the same scrutiny, and then have in prioritized order what's important to you. And is your partner or potential partner meeting those needs? I think that's a very important set of questions to ask.
Lauren and Adam, thank you so much for the great content today and answering all the questions from our audience. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. Mark your calendars for this Friday, May 3rd, for our half-day live virtual summit for exclusive analyst-led sessions on thriving post-cookies, mastering retail media networks, leveraging AI and marketing, and more. Registration is open on our events page, emarketer.com/events. While you're on that events page, you can also register for live analyst and Tech Talk webinars. And on the audio side of the house, don't forget to tune in to Behind the Numbers, eMarketers Daily podcast. And finally, please check out our newsletters. Thank you all for your time, and thanks again to Lauren and Adam, the team at InfoSum, and our eMarketer studio behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.